What's up, JetNation? This is Greenbean hanging out in Williamsburg, Virginia, and we're going to talk about the thing that you know we're going to talk about. All right, JetNation, this is Greenbean, and I'm excited to be with you today. We have big news. As I sit here in Williamsburg, Virginia, just having ridden the coasters over at Busch Gardens, Williamsburg, I'm taking a day to reflect and absorb the end of a little tiny era in Jets history. Little tiny error in Jets history. So you all know what I'm getting at. You know what I'm talking about here. It's sad to me. It is. Not that I didn't want to move on from Sam Darnold. I did. I thought it was time. You guys know this. We've talked about it ad nauseum at this point. But it's sad to me. The hope we had 3 years ago. The thoughts. The brown tie wearing Sam Darnold, who thought he would be the first overall pick in the draft to the Cleveland Browns, standing there with his brown tie, holding a green Jets jersey, and he said these words: "Expect a lot of wins." What can we expect from you, Sam Darnold? Expect a lot of wins. And we did expect a lot of wins. It looked good for a few minutes, but man, did this one go wrong. Now, coming out of the smoke of the wreckage of these last 3 years, it was time. It was time to move on. But now that we have, let's talk about a few observations that you might not be considering. Maybe you are, maybe you're not. Let's talk about them nonetheless, shall we? So Sam Darnold was just traded to the Carolina Panthers for a 2021 sixth-round pick. Now that gives us 9 fifth and sixth-round picks over the next 2 years. 9 picks in the fifth and sixth round. Joe Douglas has put that together. And a 2022 second-round pick and fourth-round pick, which is good because we didn't have a fourth-round pick next year. I'm not sure if you realize that, but that was given to the Seattle Seahawks in the Jamal Adams trade. So next year, we were going into the 2022 draft without a fourth-round pick. So going from the third to the fifth, that's a large chunk of time. It's a long window. It's wide open. Lots of players can be taken there, and that's a little bit longer of a stretch than you like to see in the draft. You never know who's going to slide, and opportunities get limited when you don't have a pick in a certain round. So Joe Douglas was able to fill that hole with the Sam Darnold trade. So let's talk about the sixth-round picks. The sixth-round pick. So number one, like I said, Joe Douglas has accumulated 9 fifth and sixth round picks. Now we don't have a seventh round pick, so some of that, we're going to end our draft these next 2 years in the sixth, which isn't the best thing in the world. You like to be able to have that last swing. The way I look at the seventh round is that you get a jump on the undrafted free agent class. You get to take that one guy that would have been a priority free agent, but we didn't have one, and we still don't have one. And what he did with those sevens was he moved them up to the sixth, essentially. So we'll be able to take those swings a little bit earlier, which is obviously better. You get a choice for a little bit larger stockpile of players there. But what does it say about Joe Douglas that he, over the last year and a half, little over a year and a half that he's been with us, he has focused on bringing in fifths and sixths throughout his, the last year's draft dealings and some of the player trades, Steve McClendon and Avery Williamson and the like. What does it say about this man and this new regime that we have, that we're putting such a focus on the fifth and sixth round? I think what it really shows us is that Joe Douglas has a confidence in his staff, in his ability to find late round gems. 9 players over the next 2 years, unless there's some trades and what have you, but 9 players that we will be bringing onto our team are going to be coming from the fifth and sixth round. That tells us that Joe Douglas feels very confident in his staff's ability to find contributors, impact players, role players, whatever it might be. But to bring guys on from that chunk of the draft that can actually contribute to the overall whole. Now, what type of players are you going to get in the 5th and 6th round, generally speaking? That's where you start to reinforce your pipeline, which is so important. The Jets have not had a legitimate pipeline of talent in forever. If you look at teams like the Ravens, like the Steelers, and so many other teams that are perpetually good, when they lose their big marquee free agents every year, what happens? The next guy up seems to be better. Every time that they lose their player, they don't get caught into these huge contracts where you have to overpay someone to keep them on the team. They let him go, and they let the next guy up take his spot without any drop-off. That's what Joe Douglas is looking like he's doing here. He's going to be taking the offensive linemen, the wide receivers, the defensive backs, and so many other positions that he can have on the squad while the first, second-round pick type of guys are playing. When they're ready to leave, the next guy's been on the squad for 2 to 3 years and can fill in right from, without missing a beat. And that's so important. And that's one of the things that comes out of this trade. We added a 6th and a 4th round pick in this trade, which is something Joe Douglas is becoming known for, quite frankly. So I think that's an interesting piece to this. Now, what else does it show us? So my second observation would be, if you look at the situation down in Carolina, it's really unique and interesting when it comes to Jets, the New York Jets and the Jets players. Obviously, you know this, Matt Rule is the head coach down there. Now, we were interviewing Matt Rule before we hired Adam Gase. It was essentially going to happen. He was going to be the New York Jets head coach, but Mike McCagnon insisted on picking his offensive and defensive coordinators, namely Greg Williams and Adam Gase. And Matt Rule just said, look, I'm not going to do it. But it shows you how Matt Rule viewed Sam Darnold 2 years ago, before Adam Gase got his mitts on him and essentially just knocked the kid around like a pinball and destroyed whatever potential he has. He really took a hit. I mean, look at the Jets fans and the fans around the league. Their opinion of Sam Darnold has significantly diminished over the last 2 years while Adam Gase had Sam Darnold. Matt Rule obviously did his study prior to being willing to accept the Jets job, and liked the quarterback that he was going to get to work with. Now he has Joe Brady on their staff, one of the young, up-and-coming, exciting offensive minds in the game. So Matt Rule and Joe Brady looked at it and said, you know what? We want to bring this guy in. And I liked what I saw when I did my deep dive evaluation when I was going to accept the job. And we're going to be able to undo the Adam Gase damage, and we're going to get the guy that everybody thought was generational when he came out in the 2018 draft. So I think that's really interesting because it shows us just how bad Adam Gase is. Now, just to further that point, Robbie Anderson put a tweet out in response to this trade. As we know, they're going to be reunited down there, Sam Darnold and Robbie Anderson. He said, I don't think Sam Darnold ever had the support, whether it's players or coaching, that he needed up in New York. Could it be said any louder and clearer why Robbie Anderson left? Sure, we look at it as a mistake by Joe Douglas. He admitted as such. But I think what was really going on there is Robbie Anderson had no intention of playing with Adam Gase anymore. He didn't like the way he threw him under the bus in the press conferences. He didn't like the play design, didn't like the development, didn't like anything about the feel of the New York Jets organization with Adam Gase at the helm, and he bounced. And now that Sam Darnold's coming over, he's looking at this as an opportunity to maybe recapture what their potential was as a duo a couple of years ago in New York. So you have Robbie Anderson, Matt Rule, and Sam Darnold together again. We could throw Trenton Cannon on there too. He's down there in Jacksonville as well. But my third observation is this. This is kind of a shitty one. Poor Teddy Bridgewater. This is twice in the last 3 years that Teddy Bridgewater is getting pushed off a team by Sam Darnold. Isn't that interesting? So I still, like, using hindsight as it is, as it is 2020, looking back, probably the wisest move that we could have done in Sam Darnold's rookie year. We had Teddy Bridgewater and McCown on the roster. It might have been a good idea to sit Sam Darnold for 6, 8, maybe even the full season. 6, 8 games or the full season, and let Teddy Bridgewater play. Now, we flipped him for a third, so it's one of Mike McCagnon's better moves. It's fine. We pulled him off the scrap heap and turned him into a third. That's fine. But it might have been a good idea to just start Teddy Bridgewater and let Sam Darnold develop a little bit and come acclimated to the NFL before we threw him in. It's neither here nor there. But once again, because Sam Darnold is arriving to a roster, Teddy Bridgewater is looking like he will be leaving a roster. I'm sure they have a great relationship, but I'm just going to tell you, when Teddy Bridgewater is sitting home with his wife and buddies, I'm sure he's not talking glowingly about Sam Darnold. I'm sure he doesn't like him very much. But that is what it is. So what do you guys think? You've probably been talking about this one. I will say, I think the value that we got for Sam Darnold once again shows Joe Douglas knows what he's doing. You heard it from months ago. Adam Schefter said a second and a fifth. Then he said a first. Then we were talking about Joe Douglas waiting too long. The market diminished. He's not going to get a fourth. He'd be lucky to get a third. People were talking about a fifth. Joe Douglas just got 3 picks, which means 3 players. And with his focus being on the later rounds, it looks like he believes that he can get contributing pipeline players from the later rounds. He already got Bryce Hall, guys, in the 5th. So he thinks he can get those players in the later rounds. So we're looking like this. We didn't want Sam Darnold anymore with our rookie head coach and all that jazz. And Joe Douglas just traded Sam Darnold for 3 young bodies to come on in and contribute to the New York Jets. I think it's a slam dunk. I'm sad. I am. The hope I had for the era of Sam Darnold just didn't work, and that plain sucks. It does. But it was time to move on, and I think Joe Douglas got his value for him, and exciting times ahead. There's only one left from the McCagnon era that we got to clean up, and that's C.J. Mosley. Joe Douglas is doing a pretty good job of cleaning this house. It's being cleaned. Sam Darnold is gone. I hope you're happy about it. I know some of you are bummed. Well, let's talk about it. Let me know what you think in the comments. Was the value good? Did he wait too long? Should he have gotten a first? Should he have kept him? Let me know what you're thinking. Don't forget, you can like us, subscribe to this channel, and you can find me at Greenbean Jets Fan on YouTube. You can also follow my Full-Time Coaster Tour on Full-Time Coaster Tour on YouTube as well. With that said, I hope you're having a great day. Go Jets.